first of all, let's start with the end in mind. When they leave, how do we want them feeling? What's the purpose of the dinner? Is it a wedding? Is it an anniversary? Is it a 75th birthday? These are my best friends, and I just want to slow down and be present with them. There's so many different avenues. First, we look at what is the end in mind. Table is, to me, the climax. Every time. The climax is the table. That is where we get people to slow down, become present. We take them through anywhere from a 4-course to we can do 9 courses. Smaller bite, 9-course tasting, whatever it is. The table is where we tell the stories that get people to realize how much is actually happening in front of them.
Welcome back to another episode of The Pursuit of Purpose. My name is Chris Kiefer, and today I am joined by Matthew Francois, who is the founder of Feasting House. But really, he is just the person to go to for luxury dining and experiences. He's got a super fascinating background. I just got to be a part of an event that they did here in Coeur d'Alene with Ian and Levi. But yeah, when he was telling me more about what he's done, I'm like, man, he's the type of person that you want to be friends with, because he's going to get his hands on some helicopters and machine guns, and you get to take part in that. So I think that's what Ian described you as. Ian handles the content and Matthew handles the guns and helicopters.
Yeah. And race cars too.
And race cars. So yeah, tell us, you started back, I was looking at your LinkedIn. I always think it's funny to see the trajectory of people, but you being Christian and just your trajectory that God has taken you on. For sure. What jumps out to you? You don't have to give me your whole resume, but what has been the consistent through line that has gotten you to where you are today that, at least in my experience, we could never have planned on our own?
I actually started my F&B career in Chili's in Dallas, Texas. Never hate on the skillet queso because I'm here for it still to this day. But I started there and really just loved hospitality, loved talking to people. I have my whole life. My dad was a pastor growing up, and so I was always just in every single conversation, very outgoing, very extroverted as a young kid. And so when I got to work in a restaurant setting where all I had to do was talk to people and bring them their food, I was like, wow, this is easy. This is great. I'm getting paid to do what I enjoy doing. And one of the managers back then, this is 2011, was like, hey, you should be a bartender. And I was like, I don't really know anything. And he's like, we'll teach you everything you need to know. And long story short, I actually fell into making craft cocktails at Chili's. I had these guests that would come in, and they would ask me for an old fashioned or a Sazerac or a Manhattan. And we're in Chili's, mind you, right? It's like you're looking at Tropical Sunrise Margarita or the El Nino or Presidente. And these guys they worked across the street, and they were like, hey, we'd love for you to make these for us. And so I started deep diving and figuring out how to make these classic cocktails and fell in love. And fast forward, moved to Hawaii. My wife worked for the Four Seasons at the time. And she was like, hey, I want to travel the world before we settle down and have kids. She was like, let's move to Maui. And so prayed about it, felt peace. It ended up working out, moved out there. We had a 1-year plan. We land at the Four Seasons on Maui, and I walk out to their pool deck, and I just was like, I want to work here. I'm staring at the ocean all day. The breeze is blowing through, and there's a bar that you're upstairs. It's the adult pool up there. It's called the Serenity Pool. And there's this bar that's in the pool essentially. And so I was like, I'm in, I want to work there. So ended up working on the pool, got into the bar scene, and I had applied for a job at the fine dining restaurant, and the manager at the time was like, what do you know about wine? And I was like, I drank Riesling growing up with my parents, at the table. That's about all I could tell you. And they were like, look, cocktail wise, you're way overqualified. You absolutely fit the bill. Hospitality, great. You don't have the wine knowledge, and we're an Italian restaurant. And I was like, oh, it's a bummer, but I really don't care that much. At the time, it was Menage a Trois, the $12 bottle from the grocery store. It was like a fancy steak dinner night at the house. And so parallel to that, we were in a community group with a group of 8 or 9 other couples. And once a month, we would not do a Bible study or we're going through a program. We would just barbecue together and hang out. And one of the guys, the couples that we'd met there, he was like, brought a bottle of wine and was pouring it in some solo cups. And he was like, Matt, like, hey, you like wine? I was like, dude, I love wine. And he's like, oh, you do? And I was like, yeah, like, again, menage a trois. And so he pours this wine for me, and he's like, tell me what you taste and smell. And I have really bad vision. And so my sense of like taste and smell from childhood has been extremely heightened. I was a super picky eater growing up, could taste lettuce, could smell it through a wrapper and like a Taco Bell wrapper as a kid, like finishing soccer practice. And like, this has lettuce, Dad. I don't want to eat it. Lettuce is bitter. And he's like, I ordered it, no lettuce, pull it off. This is a true story. And there's like one piece of shredded lettuce on the top. And he's just like, what am I going to do with you? Like, I don't get it. So anyways, so I start smelling this wine, and I'm like, I smell oranges, and I smell like citrus, and it's almost floral, like jade or gardenia, and there's this like salinity to it. It almost smells like salt water. And he's like, oh, you know what this wine is? And I was like, no, I don't really know wine. He's like, come on, man, like, you know what this wine is? And I was like, Chardonnay, because that's like, it's not Riesling, but it's the only other white grape I've ever heard of. And he's like, no, this is Albarino from Spain, and you just absolutely nailed everything you're supposed to smell and taste in this wine. How do you not know what this is? And I was like, dude, I have no idea. I just like cocktails. And he's like, you need to become a sommelier. And I was like, a what? And he's like, go home, watch this documentary called Somm Into the Bottle, and tell me what you think. Call me back. So I go home and I watch it, and I was like, fell head over heels in love with this, because it was this like beautiful mix of story, history, and this fruit that like is, you ferment and crush and then put it in a bottle and ages for a long time, and then you drink it and it's delicious. And these guys were like smelling it. It looked like a magic trick the first time I watched it, because I'm like, they're smelling it, tasting it, telling you what they smell and taste, and then telling you the year, the vintage of the wine, the grape, what region it's coming from, possibly even the producer, the style of the wine. And I just was like, what is this? I'm down. And so I just dove in, man, head over heels, ended up studying through the Court of Master Sommeliers, or the CMS, became a certified sommelier, was studying for my advanced, and then COVID happened, and then had a business at that point, and so didn't do it. But started working at Wolfgang Puck. That's where my buddy worked. He worked at Spago. And he was like, you'll learn more about wine here in 1 week than you will in 2 years down at that restaurant that wouldn't hire you. And I was like, oh, really? So I dove into, worked at Spago for 2.5, almost 3 years. Became a sommelier while I was there. Exactly what my buddy said. Learned so much about wine there, and so much about hospitality and the art of hospitality, and how you make it seamless on the front end, but there's a system for it on the back end, and so much of that was done there. And then kept going, and ran a company with a buddy, and running luxury dining experiences, and now live in Nashville, Tennessee, doing it here.
Okay, so I was not planning on going, like, you're just with the story that you're talking about. I'm like, this is hilarious, because my wife always makes fun of me. One of my my first like real high school jobs was working for a catering company.
Okay.
And so me and my, basketball buddies, just, big, quote unquote, strong guys.
Yeah.
When I see high school kids these days, I'm like, that's a big kid. He looks like a toddler. But anyways, we were just like that, and so we were at this catering company, and there's so many things that I reference and that bother me when I see events that and then when you're talking about systems, like the stuff that I was just like, I didn't do the structure or the strategy, but I just got to witness it. Yeah. And they were talking about like, how many people can we get through the line at a certain time? Yep. And where do you put, like, a subtle detail is like, at any barbecue, they always put the utensil, like a family barbecue, the utensils and napkins are right at the beginning of the line. Yeah. And we always put them at the end of the line, because you can't, what are you going to do? Yeah. Yeah. And little things like that. It's like, someone that's never worked in catering or hospitality doesn't think about that. They just put it there because you grab your utensils, and then you have to bumble around with your plate the whole time you're loading your plate up, So anyways, there's things like that I'm like, that was like the logistics, and we're mostly just clearing and loading and packing up vans and stuff. but there
Totally.
would be certain times like we'd do weddings, and there was this one wedding that it's crazy, they spent all this money on catering, and then their DJ was basically like a laptop in the shop that we were like our setup area, and they had speakers in the window that were blasting out to
Yeah.
the dance floor.
Yeah.
And so my buddy and I we were going into the shop to like get more plates or get the next entree or whatever was coming out. And after the dinner was over and we're shifting into dessert and whatnot, and the dancing is beginning, it was an unmanned DJ station, you could call it. And so we started like queuing up songs,
I
and then
love it.
we'd like look out the window and be like, dude, this is a terrible song. Like no one's digging this. And we'd
Nobody's
like fade
moving.
the
Yeah.
music out and then change it to the next one. And then we'd go back out with another plate or whatever. So anyways, we had fun in little situations like that. But it's making me think, with everything you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
your buddy giving you a wine in a solo cup.
Yeah.
It's starting to get into this idea of like the experience that you're
100%.
providing. It all matters
Yep.
in just like you literally can change the way that you taste or feel about things just because of, like, someone told me a Moscow Mule, which is like my favorite
Okay.
beverage or cocktail. I love ginger, like
Okay.
the bitterness of ginger.
Yep.
And I was looking up that the metal cup, it just makes it feel colder.
Yep.
This was on research I did like 5 years ago or 10 years ago in college. It's like it feels colder, then that's why they put it in the metal cup. And there was this like rumor that someone had told me that like the copper is interacting with the alcohol
Okay.
or but it was like, no, nothing happens there. It just literally is a cooler experience, and
100%.
it makes it feel and taste different because
Yep.
you're normally not touching a metal cup, and that transmits what's a more conductive material than glass, whatever.
Yep. For sure.
So anyways, tell me more about like a experience.
From an experience standpoint, it's like you always start with like, people don't remember data, they remember meaning. And it's like literally the way that we process, the way that we think, act, and feel is always processed through story. It's like, if I ask you about what you did, you're going to tell me about a story. You're telling me about the catering company and like how it bugs you now. You're telling me everything. The way that we live our life is through story. And I think from a hospitality and experience perspective, most of the time we are just looking at like data. Like, you even hear the catering company, how do we push 47 people through, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, that's great. You do have to have those metrics, and metrics do matter. But like, people remember story. And if you leave them with something to like I look at dining experiences or anything that you're doing through a story arc, just like you would write a book. Where it's like there's a whole purpose to the way that you ebb and flow through a mastermind or a dining experience per se. And I think like you think of like a glass of wine. Like, a glass of wine is just a glass with this juice in it, until you tell like the story of the season and the soil and the winemaker and what they had to go through to harvest that, and the fermentation process. And so you look at this where you're creating, people just see the finished product and they don't know that the story and the experience that it took for it to get there. And so if you can do that for a person when they're showing up to an event, like, you're creating world-class things. Does that make sense a little bit?
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it kind of a beer tastes the best after you mow the lawn on a super hot day?
100%. It's the story, right?
You're
It's like,
instilling
yes,
I didn't do the work, but I'm
yes,
appreciating the work that went into
yep,
making this, and now it tastes better for me.
yep, yeah. And so it's like, to me, I'm like, okay, so when you look at event versus experience, right? So an event, you can call anything an event, a dining event or a mastermind event. Those, to me, it's always equal to like, there's an event, or there's activity, there's schedule, and there's logistics. There's these three things when you plan an event. When you're planning an experience, you're looking for meaning, transformation, and story. And so just shifting those, you're still running the same exact item, a mastermind experience or a mastermind event. right? Yes, you will still have an experience. When you're in an experience, there's still sure a schedule, there's still logistics, there's still data that you have to have, but it's looking at it, you as a business owner or the person putting it on is not just saying how does the person feel, but you have to start to look at it and go, man, what's the story I'm trying to tell here?
Mm.
What is the like what is the transformation that I want the guest or the client or the customer to actually feel when they leave here? What are they
Yeah.
processing at the end? What are they reflecting on? Like, what is the climax of your event or your experience?
And you are deciding or
Yeah, so
pre-establishing the goal.
yeah,
Like
so
you might fail, or it might like have
100%. Or it might even ship.
tangent.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. It's the same idea with like a podcast, right? It's like we get on here and it's like, well, if this was just like, hey, we just want to talk about numbers, what's your business look like, blah, blah, blah. Even in doing that, a podcast is still going to exchange story after story. When it's like, oh, well, tell us why your numbers didn't do that. Or tell us why your EBITDA was off by 24%. And then they're going to give you a story. And so you're creating, it's the same exact way as like, how do I create unforgettable? Meaning, I don't care if they remember the dish, if they're like, "Oh, it was really good food, but I don't remember that." I remember how I felt. I remember that the steak moved me, the way that he discussed it, the way that he talked about it, the way that he told the story about this wine that made me think about life differently. And it is good.
I was going to say there's an element that I think with the nicer dining experiences that I've had, how do you mix in exclusivity or like
Mm.
scarcity to enhance a story? Or is that not a thing? Because I
No, I
feel like
love.
there's an element of like it's like when you're watching a game on ESPN and the
Yeah,
announcers are commenting on these statistics of like, this is the
yeah,
first game since
yeah,
1917 that blah blah whatever, you're
yeah.
like, oh, that's crazy, I didn't know I was watching this unique event.
Yeah, I think for me, I want it to feel like we're creating a story for that person or that group of people, and that it's never going to look the same again. It's never going to feel the same again. We're never going to be able to repeat this. And so to me, in and of itself, it's like it is a one of one every time. And so there's a guy, Will Guidara, who ran a restaurant, built it up called 11 Madison Park in New York. It was #1 restaurant in the world. There's a book called Unreasonable Hospitality. Phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal book. Um, but he talks about building systems on the back end that create the story and experience for people so that it feels like it's one of one every time. So that it's like nobody else is ever going to get this experience like me again. And so for me, that is a lot of the times when you do these experiences is just getting people to first of all like slow down. Like take a deep breath. Like we're here. This table that you're at, this mastermind that you're at, this experience that you're at, this dinner that you're at will not ever happen again for the rest of eternity in this exact way. The season of life you're in, the people you're sitting next to, how old are your children, what did your day look like today, what's it look like tomorrow, will never happen again. And so they're like, once you get people to settle into that and to go, man, I need to be present right now because tomorrow isn't promised. And it's like, and if you look at what Jesus did in his ministry, all he did was go slowly from town to town, sit down with people, dine with them, and like craziest things happened. Healing happened, deliverance happened. People's lives were changed forever. And then think of the lineage of those people that then their children and their grandchildren, and so 14 generations later, their lives look drastically different because of one meal.
Mm, that's
And
awesome.
so that is where I get like so pumped, is to get people to say, hey, you're here right now for this one moment in time that you might not be here tomorrow. So what if you could do something tonight? What if you could see the table, see the food, see the wine, see the people across from you differently, just a touch differently, and let it envelop you. And for me, for our dining experiences, I always, my motive, and it's playing with that sometimes, because sometimes that's not what people want. They don't want to hear Jesus and gospel and kingdom. But it's like, but still, how do you bring heaven down to earth for a person there just to experience something different for one evening?
Mm. Do you, so that's like, I'm like, ooh, that sound, I'm engrossed or like captivated by the story.
Sure.
That's awesome. Do you, when you, like, just in your personal life,
Yeah.
how, when you have people over for a barbecue,
Yeah.
does this like come naturally that you like instinctually are doing stuff, or do you plan, or do you say, I'm just gonna like, I don't obviously, I'm assuming you're not putting as much thought into the
Sure.
experience for
Sure.
a last minute get together, but you're
Yeah.
still, do you approach every dining opportunity or hosting that you just do on a personal level with the same lens, and do you take little moments to insert that?
I would say yes. I would say sometimes it differs. In the sense that sometimes it just looks different. I have this question a lot where they're like, so what do you do? You got 3 young kids at your house. How do you practice that? Because my kids are wild. Like it's just the truth. They're wild. They run around, lived in Hawaii for most of their lives now. And so living here in Tennessee, they run around barefoot and they're hard to handle. And so people are like, well, how do you do this intentionality with them? And so for instance, like tonight, it's Friday. We have Fun Friday tonight. We order pizza. We don't cook. So that way cleanup, kids don't have to do dishes or anything like that. They don't have chores at the end of dinner. And we just like sit and laugh and tell story after story. We make funny jokes. You have to come up with funny stories. And I just want them to start to feel now how sacred the table is. Like when they look around our house and they're like, the most exciting piece of furniture in our home wasn't the couch next to the TV, it wasn't their bed, it wasn't their Lego station, right? It was the kitchen to the dining room table.
Mm.
And so that allows them to go like, hey, if we sit down at the table, we might be here for 2 hours. We might be here. Now she's now 14 months or something like that. But when my 1 year old, when she was 9 months old, homegirl had 20 minutes at the table before she was screaming her head off and she had to get down, right? And so it doesn't always look the way that you want it to be, but when you're with the right group of people, it's like, yeah, absolutely set the intention. Because like I'm looking at this now, and this is why I care about even pouring into this podcast. Because it's like I could leave here and not make it home. So why not give all of this my attention, my all, my presence, slowing down, taking a deep breath, being grateful that I'm talking on this square thing into a lens and I'm talking to another guy from literally across the country. And like this is going to go out and hopefully affect one person to get them to slow down and be present with their life and look at their life and the things that they do in the business, maybe that they run, maybe just a touch different. And how does that affect the world? Like,
Yeah.
so yes, it's very much how I live my life.
Yeah, my wife and I have always, we're in the middle of an addition, and we love hosting. We got an acre in Coeur d'Alene, and
Sick.
we like, this is like the house that we talked about getting when we were newlyweds, is just having space, a nice backyard,
Yep.
patio and whatnot. And but I will be honest, I love the experiences that I have been a part of, but
Yep.
I'm also thinking like, that's a great challenge or reminder of just like, when we're hosting, there's a part of me that wants to, well, I will say that from a food perspective, I don't think about that as a primary, but
Mm.
whenever we host something, like we have this thing that every year we do called, I've just made it up. It's the Kiefer Water Palooza in
Okay.
June every summer.
Okay.
So it's like, right, school's
I
getting
know where
out
I'm
and
coming back next summer.
we invite all the kids, and I just like find the biggest, craziest inflatable slide that I can find on some rental company, and we put it in our backyard, and that's like good for the kids. But then I'm
Yeah.
like, I want and I don't know if you would say, is competition, how would you work this in? I guess I'm saying like, give me some feedback on my hosting.
Sure.
But
Sure.
what I'm obsessed with is like, I think parents and adults, we all enjoy, and the reason we love kids and watching kids is because we actually wish we were doing that
It's all
too.
right here. Yeah.
Yeah. And so whenever I host, I'm like,
That's why I love the helicopters and guns and race cars, because ultimately what I'm doing is I'm like, how do I get Chris to unlock that little 12-year-old boy that's inside of him that's like, feels like sometimes he's been locked in a cage for 15, 20, 30 years. He's like, he just wants to have fun. He wants to laugh and be joyful, right? And he's like, let me out, let me live, man. And so that's a whole nother, but again, so I think what you're talking about for me is going like, how do you design transformation, not just entertainment?
Mm.
And so I think when you look at entertainment, you're like, I want people to just go like, oh, that was fun, right? So to me, transformation from an experience standpoint is like anchoring intention into what you're trying to do. So for instance, right, let's look through, you've got this land, you've got the Kiefer water Lollapalooza or whatever you called it, which I love it. I'm so here for it. Is like, what is the intention of you actually doing that? All the way through. Let's talk through from arrival to immersion of the experience to the actual experience to the like reflection. What the climax of the day is, there like a heightened point of the day where you're pulling everybody around and you're talking about like, this is why we're here, this is why we do this for the summer, we want to honor these kids for how hard they've worked, we want to allow the adults to actually play and invigorate and ignite relationship with their children for the rest of the summer, that the parent can get out of work mode and actually just be playful for a moment. Like, what is the climax of your experience that you're hosting, and then leaving something for those parents and those kids to actually reflect on? That's a transformational, that's an unforgettable experience. That's not just entertainment. A lot of people entertain all the time. Come over to the house, we've cooked you a meal, and then you're just like kind of show up for a meal and you're kind of like, what do I do with my hands? And it takes 20 minutes, and then you kind of get in one conversation and you don't really want to leave that conversation because everybody else has pigeonholed themselves in those conversations now, and you're like, well, if I want to like go somewhere else, I'm kind of going to be standing there awkwardly or enter into somebody else's conversation, and there's this like loss of a transformation and seeing the whole experience.
So that's actually a really interesting point of, are you designing those, like, you're thinking, okay, we're going to give people 20 minutes to get into a conversation, but
Yep.
we want to make sure there's always like a deliberate, intentional, like disrupting of like
Yeah.
reorganizing
100%.
the party and then
Yeah.
like settle down and then.
Yep. Yeah, and that's helping to me. That's the immersion stage. How do you immerse them into the full experience so that they're not just on a solo island by themselves talking? So it's like, if we're doing a dining experience, right? And we're doing it outside, we're doing it on your 1 acre. We've got a fire pit going over here. We've got a table with a chef making some smoked pork belly, dressing it, tossing it in local jam. I'm going to have our servers or myself or the team or chef walking around there like, hey, you got to come try this. You grab 2 or 3 couples that are all like standing talking by themselves, and you're like, guys, come try this. I want you to taste this like Paul Roger champagne, grower producer, with this smoked pork belly and that sweet jam and that smoky flavor that plays into this crisp acidity into the champagne hits so hard. And so you're grabbing them, right? Now I'm telling you into a story. They're like, oh my gosh, I want to go over there. And then they're taking a bite, and now they're talking to somebody else going like, do you taste that? Like, tell me more about the champagne. And then this guy's like, wait, I've had that champagne before. Where did I have that? And you're creating these other experiences. And then next thing you know, they're going over and they're like, oh, Bill's got to try this. Let me go grab Bill. And so you're just constantly like moving these things before all of a sudden you sit down at the table and actually are like, okay, now is when we slow down. Now is when we're present. Now is when I want you to close your eyes and take a deep breath and open your eyes and look across from you. And like, know that this moment in time, there's this infinite moment in time. And right now you're sitting right here across from that person with these plates in front of you, with this silverware and this glass and this decor and these flowers that somebody trimmed and grew, that you'll never be able to tell them thank you because you don't even know who they are or where they came from. So what if you slowed down for one evening for 3 hours and you were just present with everything in front of you, and that was it? And it's like, Oh my gosh, whoa. I didn't think of it like that. And so if you start doing that with everything, like you will literally change people's lives forever.
Mm. Okay, so man, I've got so many like, ooh, what's your take on paying for an experience versus it being a gift? How does that impact the experience of the receiver?
Yeah, I would say that there's I'd say there's probably both sides, but what people pay for, they pay attention to.
Yeah.
Right? It's like when you're trying to give away the free course and you're like, I've given so much time and energy and value and effort, and you get 1,000 people that sign up for it, and you go talk to those 1,000 people, and 997 of them are like, I didn't actually look at it.
Yeah.
And so there's part of that that's like, I mean, well, I want to transact something so that you're like, I'm giving you my time, which was my money, and I'm giving you my time to be able to focus. And I'm like, great, I don't want to take that for advantage or take advantage of that. And I don't take that lightly. So now I'm going to craft something. So I'm all for pay for the experience, pay for the high end experience. The problem is a lot of times people just charge a lot of money because they're like, it's elite and exclusive, but they're not thinking through the story. And then also, I think gifting people experiences are really great if you are using the same intention to say, I want this to be transformative, so let me literally anchor in intention before I gift this to you. Not just say, here's this cool thing, go enjoy it, we love you. Like, why are you doing that for them? Slow
Mm.
down with them, immerse them into why you wanted to do it. What's the climax? What is like, man, I hope more than anything you get out of this, this is blank. And then when you're done with this, I hope you reflect blank on this. And it's like, if you can use that framework for gifting an experience to somebody, man, I'm so about it. But I'm also on the other side, on the same side of or on the other side of the fence. Again, people pay attention to what they pay for.
Yeah, totally. I completely agree, and I'm thinking that yeah, I have been on the situation where I've paid, and I've also been in the situation
Yeah,
where somebody paid the person that's providing the experience, right?
sure.
But then you're just it's kind of like a wedding, right?
It's like
You just show
receiving.
up.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's still a great experience, but I didn't
yeah,
pay.
yeah.
But I was just curious. I do feel
Oh
like
man, I
do
think
do
if
you
you're
think
talking
about like who are the people that are going to be here, and did they pay me, or are they just a recipient, and does that affect how you're navigating, or it doesn't?
from that standpoint, no, not at all. Because I'm going to create the same story, right? You think that to me, the people that are just like receiving, you're invited to this event. People that show up like that, a lot of times are blown away the most because most times you're showing up to just like, oh, we're going to another wedding. Oh, we're going to like another dinner that Rachel and Tony are hosting at their house. And sure, I'm excited. Like the food's gonna be good. They always hire a private chef or whatever it is, and it's cool. And then you show up and somebody does a story and creates a transformative experience. Man, a lot of times you are the person left with the most change because you're like,
Mm,
holy crap! I thought I was walking into a Applebee's, and I realized that I just left a 3-star Michelin restaurant that's gonna change me for the rest of my life. And when
yeah,
I say this a lot. Levi said this to me one time, and I was like, man, now I get it. When he's like, people are like, what do you mean I'll leave changed for the rest of my life or change my life forever? It's like, if you leave thinking differently about one thing, your life is literally changed forever because the way that you think, act, and feel based off of that thought is now going to possibly affect the way you parent, which then possibly affects the way your children are raised, which then affects how they think, and then their children, and your grandchildren, and great grandchildren. And so it's like one thought can literally change the way that you live for the rest of your life. It's
yeah.
crazy.
Do you That's making me also think that in doing this experience there is roles in
Yeah.
like if you're the host or the person that did the inviting,
Mm-hmm.
obviously at a certain size you can like you mentioned, if you're hosting with your wife, you can kind of do what you do with 5 people, but
Sure.
then it like there is a point where it's just logistically if you're the one running the experience,
Sure.
you're
Yeah.
no longer like the host anymore.
Yeah.
Your mind's in a totally different place. You're not
100%.
participating in the conversations. So there's like, I don't know if is there a threshold, or because in my
Yeah.
mind, I'm like, there's a part of me that's like, how do I bring in some of what you're talking about to our daily, weekly,
Yeah.
let's say,
Yeah.
hosting of families that we know,
Yep.
versus like, we're going to do an event.
Yep.
And like I told Natalie that I want the water
Start
palooza that
switching that
we've
to
done two of them.
experience. I'm gonna cut you off there.
What's
Stop
that?
calling it stop calling it events and start creating experiences.
Yes.
Keep going.
So the Waterpalooza experience,
Come
I
on, there we
literally
go.
about a year ago we did. So we've done two. Because our backyard is literally like filled with construction trucks. We couldn't do it this year, but
Yeah.
next year we're going to go third annual. And I was like, every year I just want to add something
Yeah.
that's like better and like
Yeah.
more unique, because the
Yep.
goal is that like in 10 or 15 years there needs to be like pyrotechnics down the slip and slide, just because it's like that's like the trajectory that we're going. It
I'm
needs to
here for it.
continue to add and build so
Yep.
that people are like, what's going to happen this year, But
Yep.
if I'm doing that, and we literally had 100 people in our backyard when we did this the first time, and it's like there's logistically, there is like, I'm not enjoying it as much as if I had someone that was running it, right?
Sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's where I think a lot of times you have to go, am I here to receive or am I here to pour out?
Yeah, and then just assume that role and go all
Yeah.
in. Yeah.
And because I do there very much is like there's a moment and like it's taken a lot of mess ups for me to get to the point where I know when I'm doing it well, as do all people that try to run a business. But yeah, there's been so many times where I've gone in with the intention of like, I'm gonna cook, I'm gonna pour the wines, and I'm gonna tell the stories, and I'm gonna do this, and give me it all because I'm so excited about it all. And then I'm like cooking the food, slicing the steak, and I'm like, man, I should be telling stories right now, but I can't. So then I'm just like yelling over my shoulder, like, all right, so this is steak. It's really good. Hope you enjoy it. And then somebody that knows me really well walks up and they're like, what was that, dude? That was such a, like, that was so cheap. Why'd you do that? And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. I'm maxed out on my capacity on trying to handle logistics and execution and forgot to say like the most important part of that is the story and creating the experience of that heightens everything else. So yeah, that's why I believe in like storytellers is what I call them, right? Is like you need to have the storytellers or the experience creators that are there to go. My focus is simply to go, what is the arc that we're creating? How do we want people to feel? So when people are like, hey, can you help me with the mastermind? Just had a guy call me yesterday. It's like, here's what I want to do. I said, okay, that's great. When this is over with, how are people feeling? Like, take 5 seconds, take a deep breath. How do you want the people to feel when they leave? What are they thinking about? What are they calling their spouse saying, oh my gosh, I blank? Let's start there. Because the moment that we start there, now we can reverse engineer everything and go, we need to have this. We don't need that. That doesn't matter. I know you wanted to do that. Or maybe you just want to sprinkle in some like guiltless fun just because we can. And so to me, I'm like, the moment you start with the Waterpalooza for next year, like keep adding, yes, but why? What do you actually want them to feel? Is it just to go, Chris is the coolest guy in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho? And if it is, that's great. Like, cool. Let's start with the end in mind with your experience. And then every year going, yep, let's add more. Let's add more. Let's add more because it aligns with how they feel when they leave here.
Yeah. That's awesome. Last thing, and then I'll go to my wrap up questions.
Cool.
How important is the table at an experience?
It's the most
Like
important thing that you can do.
so you have to. What I heard you say was every experience is going to have kind of the mixer. It's like,
Yeah,
and if you think about it, it's like this is like every event follows that more or less,
100%.
right?
Yes. Yep.
But then there's some events that are incredible, and it's
Yep.
because there's been more intentionality in each of these. But it's like you kind of socialize a little bit.
Yep.
You're warming them up for the dinner, and
Yeah.
then generally some, like, I don't know what you'd call the weddings. It's dancing. At
Yeah.
other places, maybe it's around, you're hanging out around the fire pit. But
Yep.
is it three main things, or would you say that there's
Yeah.
actually?
I think that those shift for me. I put them into a couple different buckets, but there's like weekend experiences. There's like one-off nightly experiences where it's like the dining experience. That's a 3.5 hour experience or whatever that is. But I would say if we're going from like a dining experience perspective, yes, I would say like, okay, how do you think through? First of all, let's start with the end in mind. When they leave, how do we want them feeling? What's the purpose of the dinner? Is it a wedding? Is it an anniversary? Is it a 75th birthday? Is it these are my best friends and I just want to slow down and be present with them? Is like there's so many different avenues. So first we look at what is the end in mind. Table is to me the climax every time. The climax is the table. That is where we get people to slow down, become present. We take them through anywhere from a 4 course to we can do 9 courses, right? Smaller bite, 9 course tasting menu, whatever it is. The table is where we tell the stories that get people to realize how much is actually happening in front of them. And then that might end with, hey, let's go to the fire pit and smoke some cigars, some Nicaraguan or Steve Saka or Foundation, or let's do a tea setup where we're getting crazy Chinese green teas. Like, it doesn't matter. You can create the experience at the end that allows even people to reflect on what they just did while they were there. And then going back to the beginning, something that is warm and welcoming and inviting them into a space, right? Because this is to me what I feel like over the past, I guess it's been 7 years now of doing the like dining experiences. What I've learned for me specifically, my gift is we've done events. The company I ran on Maui with my buddy Yeshua Kiave Outdoor, amazing company in Hawaii. You should check them out if you're ever out there. Um, but what we learned was we started doing events for very high-end clients and people that had heavy influence and were very influential in their space. And I'll wrap this up quickly, but essentially what happens is those people come into spaces with walls up all the time. Just based off of what do you want from me? Somebody wants something. They're going to ask me, whether it be for money or for a signature or for help or support or guidance or mentorship. So a lot of these people show up with walls up, right? And so my gifting in the table and telling the stories and thinking through experiences, it allows people to go like this, take the mask off for an evening and let the walls down and be vulnerable at a table. Because for my heart, that's when Jesus does his work, right? Is like when you're able to do that. And so that's my heart. I'm not always saying that to everybody, but that's my heart. That's my intention. That's what Jesus has put me on this earth to do. And so saying, hey, how do we create an experience from the beginning that show up, invite them in, pull them to the table, pull them to the fire pit to try a bite, pull them over here to listen to this one song and pair the music with a glass of wine, whatever that looks like, is allowing them to slow. I'm softening the string on the mask and I'm softening the walls so that they fall down when they sit at the table.
I love that. Man, I'm just like, I was realizing I'm just like drooling about like I'm salivating, like I want
Yeah.
some food. I'm ready to eat.
Oh man, we
This
could
this
throw
is
down.
fantastic.
Yep.
So any other like just closing thoughts, things that you're like were on top of your mind that you want to say before we go books and movie and close?
Yeah, I mean, I could go for hours on this stuff. I could live and breathe it. So, no, I think we're good, man. I love getting to spread the word of like, if people could just, people that do experiences in general, you don't have to have the experience-based company. Like, you do it in your business. Like, your business specifically, Chris, is like, how do I set intention from an onboarding to how can I gift them? How can I create, how can I immerse them into the business? How can I create the climax of them? How am I leaving them reflecting work every day, once a quarter? And it's like, experience isn't just for the dining experience or when you do the mastermind. It is all encompassing every moment of your life. You should be looking at how am I literally like rooting intention into what I'm doing, and I'll create a transformative culture in my work based from experience.
Yeah, absolutely. 3 book recommendations.
One for me I personally love, it was a very small book a while back by the author named Leonard Sweet, and it's called From Tablet to Table. Talks about like statistics of how much time we don't spend at the table anymore and how to invite that back in. I mentioned it earlier, Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara. That book is absolutely will rock anybody's world, for business, for personal, for if you want to create an experience company, whatever it is. You own a restaurant, doesn't matter. Unreasonable Hospitality, I scream it from the rooftops. It's a very influential book. And then a third book, shooting from the hip here, The Body Keeps the Score. That book wrecked my life a long time ago, just realizing how much we hold on to and the neural pathways that we consistently walk in and get stuck in a rut.
And movie recommendation or suggestion.
Chef's Table, love that series on Netflix. The first season is so good. Massimo Bottura's episode, Francis Mallman's episode. And then I would say the one that helped me become a sommelier, the Somm series. So there's Somm 1, Somm 2, Into the Bottle, and then Somm 3. They're really good and done well.
I just had one other thought hit me. I have a buddy who's like an incredible cook. I'm curious, do you feel like, would you call yourself an incredible cook? Do you enjoy cooking, or do you just like adding the story to the chef that is cooking, or is it a mixture?
I love cooking. Absolutely love cooking. For me, it's just starting to elevate above and go, if I stay in the cooking realm, I'm going to constantly get in the weeds and forget to live in the creating the experience and telling the story.
Yeah, because I was going to say, when we go to his house, the stuff, like literally the food that he's making is
Yeah.
the most gourmet. Like
Yeah.
it's great. He loves it. But it oftentimes it's just presented in like a, hey, everyone grab your plate, dish up, blah, blah, blah. And so we're eating this unbelievably good tri-tip, but it's just
No way.
like, it's rushed, it's, and he makes like, I'm trying to think of, he's literally making a cookbook for firefighters, because he's a firefighter. So he's
Sick.
like the dedicated chef at their, like, they're just all like, Scott, will just pay you. You just make
Yeah.
all the meals.
Yeah.
And so he loves it. And he's not making a book of 101 different firefighter meals, but
Sick.
they're like very, very
Legit.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so anyways, I'm like, I got to share this with Scott, because he's super talented, but there's
Yeah.
this, it's like almost he's missing out on, you mentioned it just a second ago, there's like a missed opportunity to really land how good this is, that you're like what you're experiencing or what you're
Yeah.
eating, as
Yep.
opposed to like, oh, it's just, I bought it from Costco
Yep.
and did some
Just
stuff,
food. Yep. It's
Yeah.
means to
So
an end versus an experience.
totally. If people want to get in touch, what's your preferred method of contact?
Yeah, love Instagram. The Feasting House is the Instagram, at the Feasting House. Feastinghouse.com is a website. I very much care about exclusivity, in the sense of I want people to be intentional when they show up to a website to learn more, to ask questions, or to reach out for an event. So it is password protected. The password is slow down, no space, no caps. SLOWDOWN. Slow down is the password to get onto the site. And then email's on there if you want to reach out. But I love Instagram. And then my personal Instagram is Matt, fr.ancois, Matt Francois.
That's awesome. Well, Matt, thank you very much.
Man,
That
thanks for
website is
having me.
super, super awesome. I love the password protected idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was fun. And hopefully my wife is in charge of putting together details for not the Waterpalooza. I think that's out of the budget for Waterpalooza, but for our clients, we want to do an event in Coeur d'Alene
Heck yeah.
next summer. So it'd
Would
be
love that.
awesome to make that happen. But again, thank you so much, Matt. And we'll see you around. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Chris Kiefer, and my mission is to champion the relentless pursuit of purpose. And what that means to me is to be an example, a champion, someone that is in the trenches, working and showing and winning and trying and failing in how to pursue a deeper and more meaningful life with the people that I love, with my kids, with my friends, with our family, and also just be a champion and example of entrepreneurship and following my passion and doing what I believe I'm called to on this earth. And so if that inspires you in some way, please share this episode. If you want, like, subscribe, share, whatever, do all the stuff. It means the world to me to get this message and get these guests that I have out there. And if you're interested in any of the book recommendations or looking up other episodes, the movie list, you can visit my website, chriskiefer.com, for all the details on the show. And also check out the Boolean review software, as well as the Boolean automation consulting company that I own for home service businesses. So thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next episode.